Hey, it's Chris. Congratulations on getting your home under contract. We're very excited for you and very excited to take this next step in the process. Wanted to just send you a quick video outlining what is the next step of the process and kind of what to expect. And I want to start off by just reading you a few statistics, okay? Because while this is time to celebrate, we're not done yet. We still got a little ways to go and some things to get through, so don't celebrate too hard just yet. One of the jokes that we say is buyers die, lenders lie, and stuff happens, okay? And that's a little grim, but it's true. In fact, 1 out of 2,000 buyers will die before closing. Can you believe that? I mean, we don't even think about that. But sure, the chance exists, right? The house could come back on the market due to that. But more than likely, if it comes back on the market, it's going to be due to one of these other reasons. 1 out of 10 loans will be delayed by lenders. 1 out of 15 homes won't close because of an inspection-related issue, okay? 1 out of 75 homes will not appraise. I would argue that's actually closer to 1 out of 25 homes will not appraise. These are National Association of Realtor statistics. In our market, it's, as fast as it's appreciating, appraisals are having a really hard time keeping up. And 1 out of 300 loans will be terminated due to somebody's job loss. So there's a lot of things outside of our control that can happen during the next phase of this process that could cause the house to the deal to fall apart and cause the house to come back on the market. So that's just to say there's some things outside of our control, okay? What's going to happen next is the buyer's due diligence process is going to begin, and they're going to start doing their inspections. The typical inspections a buyer is going to do is the home inspection, just the general bumper-to-bumper inspection of the home. They're going to probably do a termite inspection because termites are very common in North Carolina, and they're probably going to do a radon test, which measures the radon concentration in the air. And if that comes back over a certain level, there's some action items that the EPA recommend we take. So those are the 3 things that they're most likely going to do. If the home has septic or well, they may do a septic or well inspection. Probably going to also do a survey. But they may not do the survey until after the due diligence period is over, because survey issues are the one thing that can happen outside of due diligence that still would require the seller to fix per the contract. And we're talking about encroachments and things like that. We'll get into the details on that later. But this is just to say, here's what's going to happen next, okay? All those inspections are going to take place, and the appraisal is most likely going to take place in conjunction with that. Once that is done, once those inspections are done, and they don't always happen on the same day, once the buyer gets all those reports, they'll likely prepare a repair request that they'll send to us along with copies of the inspection reports. And we'll evaluate that repair request, see what is and what is not reasonable. You and I will talk about that and respond to them. We need to have any repairs that are going to be agreed to. We need to have that agreed to in writing by 5 o'clock on the last day of due diligence. And why I say that is because that's the day that their earnest money goes hard. And so if they were going to back out of the deal over an inspection item, they're most likely going to do that by 5 p.m. on the last day of due diligence. So we want to get those repairs negotiated as early as possible, bearing in mind it usually takes a few days to get those reports back once the inspections have been done. Also, the appraisal. If the appraisal comes back lower than the contract price, they'll probably come back and want to renegotiate that price. We may or may not have talked about that at the onset of the contract, depending on the circumstances. But low appraisals are fairly common in our market with as fast as home prices are rising. So again, we'll deal with that if and when the need arises. Once we get all that stuff negotiated and we get everything agreed to, it's all buttoned up and due diligence ends, it should be pretty smooth sailing from that point on through closing, okay? And that's the time where you're going to go ahead and cancel your utilities and finalize your move and things like that. The buyer, though, may request a reinspection of your repairs. So if you've agreed to do certain repairs, it's their right to do a reinspection where they send their inspector back to look at those items you fixed and make sure that they were done up to snuff. And since they have the agreement from you in writing that you would fix those things, if they weren't done to the inspector's satisfaction, they may request, hey, go back and revisit items A, B, and C. They'll also do a final walkthrough either the day before or the day of closing. And ideally, this is a time when you've already moved out of the house and they can see everything empty. This is we're walking through to make sure everything that was agreed to be left was left. They didn't take any fixtures or take any personal property that was agreed to be left. You didn't put any holes in the wall in the process of moving or anything like that. And you didn't leave any junk behind that wasn't supposed to be left behind. So if any of those things did happen, they may come back and say, hey, we found this during the walkthrough. What are you going to do about it? We'll have to address it at that point in time. Assuming everything goes well, that's the time we go to closing. Usually we go to closing for you unless you have a burning desire to go. By this point, you will have already gone into the attorney's office to sign what you need to sign, and I will go on your behalf, or Amy will go for you. One of us will go, and all we're doing is really signing and reviewing the closing statement, which you will see prior to closing. We get out of there pretty quickly, and then the buyer does their part of the process, which is the more laborious part. They have about 100, 150 things to sign. Once everything is signed and closed, or once everything is signed by both buyer and seller, the attorney closes the deal by recording at the Register of Deeds for the respective county that the property is in. Most attorneys these days do that electronically, although some still don't. So depending on which attorney the buyer uses, will dictate how long that recording process takes. And once the sale is recorded, at that point in time is when the title transfers to the new owner. So right up, even though you've signed everything, you own it right up until the time that sale has been recorded. And that's the point usually when we're releasing keys to the buyer. Everybody gets their funds dispersed and all the money changes hands, and everybody goes on with their day. So that's just a brief overview of the next steps of this process, and certainly there's uniquities to every transaction, things that are going to come up, and we'll work through those as they do. But just wanted you to have this kind of general reminder overview because it's probably been a while since we last spoke about this phase of the process. If you have any questions at all, you know how to get in touch with us, and we're going to be working hard for you to make sure that we get to the closing table smoothly as possible. And if things do come up, you know that we'll be right there with you to fix them and deal with them as things may arise through this process. Reach out to us anytime you need us, and we're here for you, and we're looking forward to getting this closed out. Thanks, and have a great day.